Hi and welcome to the MCA podcast, your fix for everything innovative in advertising production. I'm Pat Murphy and I've been working in this industry for more than 35 years. I've seen a lot of changes, but know that there are many more around the corner. Each week on our podcast, you'll get to hear from one of the movers and shakers who are shaping the world of production for the future. And we'll dive into some of the key challenges facing our sector today and how we're best placed to overcome them. Today, you're going to meet Sergio Lopez-Ferrero. Sergio is someone I've known and admired for a very long time. He's the global head of production at the Publicis Groupe, and he's an expert in managing production across the world, working with well-known brands such as Coca-Cola, MasterCard, and Sony, to name just a few, as well as winning many industry awards in his career. In today's podcast, Sergio will be discussing the way production is changing and adapting to the changing needs of the modern marketing environment. Welcome, Sergio, to our podcast.
Thank you, Pat.
Now, I was reading with interest the piece that you wrote for The Drum back in February of this year. You were talking about no longer being a silver bullet and that production is not about delivering campaigns, but delivering engagement. Where do you see this being most evident in the industry? And do you have a good example to bring this to life for us?
I think it's as usual, we start seeing that in passion brands, right? Like brands that people start connecting with. It's just because of social media, the way people are engaging with content is not a 3-month stint anymore. They're very much connecting the long term and they build a relationship with a brand or with the creative that is being done. You're starting in car advertising, how it's not just about a television commercial that is totally separate from the experience in the dealership and totally different in the website. Fashion brands is another one with clients like L'Oreal that we work with. You can tell how there is an entire experience that they want to engage with when they buy specific makeup or specific color nail polish. Is not just about the last commercial. It's about like they want to belong to that experience where they see where with influencers on social media where they see in store. But if you look at television media spend for the first time in history, it's gone below 20%, which means that there's another 80% that people are connecting with. And that's why I think that it's not just about a campaign with the television, some print and some radio that just lasts for 2-3 months and then we throw it away and we start all over again. It requires another longer engagement, not just on production, but also on strategy and creative.
Do you think it's nowadays having to provide some value to the consumer more than ever before, creating content and entertainment? Is that a really important thing for clients to bear in mind these days?
It's very dimensional. It's about providing entertainment. It's about providing education. You see it on some brands, like DIY brands, right? Like brands like Lowe's or Home Depot, that people are almost demanding that they do and that then teach them how to use their products and educate them. And then there is another dimension, which is social responsibility. If you remember, I think there's such a disenchantment with people with the political class these days and some level of skepticism that they put a lot of pressure on brands to actually make the world a better place. There was a statistic that 70% of people think that brands are responsible for improving the situation in the world with diversity, inclusion, and also with environment. So that's why I think there's a bigger thing than just telling a quick story. There is a demand that brand plays a bigger role in an individual.
There's a whole load of more things that you have to bear in mind when doing a production these days compared to when you and I started a very long time ago. Things like D&I, obviously, and social responsibility. Is that a really big part of the planning pre-pro when you're working on a production?
It is now. It is now because remember that our agencies are made out of people, and these people we do care about these things, and we have increasingly people that came from what we call underrepresented demographics, which is a really good thing in a business that is all about new and different. Bringing different voices and different perspective actually leads to better creative. So it's not a good to have. It's actually a really interesting thing, and those people do care, especially the younger generations, about the environment.
Absolutely.
Production in particular, I think like Ad Green's numbers were saying that it's 25% of the CO2 emissions in advertising. So people are starting to question how many people are selling to shoots and what are we doing with those huge sets that we build? What do we do with them when we disregard them? So there's a lot more planning on that, but it's very quickly becoming second nature. That's the That's the thing, and it's a lot of very make sense kind of approach that everybody's embracing. I don't think that they're looking at it as a burden, but actually it's something that everybody is committed to.
One of the things that you and I have often talked about is trust. And trust is a key thing, I believe, in delivering effective work. And we still hear clients complain that for many, that the answer to every problem is a 30-second TV ad. This can't be the start point anymore, and certainly doesn't help the complex challenges around producing and delivering a whole range of assets these days. How do agencies regain that trust if there seems a resistance to change?
I think that before we talk about trust, we need to talk about, like, trust comes from being able to confidently deliver on things. The challenge has been in the last few, like I would say in the last 10, 15 years, technology has moved faster than we could adapt to that. When you look at from digital to social to then marketing personalization. And I think that one of the mistakes looking back that we might have made as an industry is confidently looking at a client and say, of course we know how to do that, when nobody knew, because it was an innovation area, right? There is nobody who's a executive creative director level of metaverse right now, because metaverse, it hasn't been long enough for somebody to be an expert. There's people that know how to innovate better than others. And it's getting to that conversation with clients where it is be able to openly have conversations around this is innovation and we need to innovate. And no, you cannot measure on metaverse return on investment in the same way that you do television, which has been around for 70 years, right? But at the same time, it's something that is, because you come from generations of people that were deeply into gaming and people that are looking for experience, it seems like it's the right thing to do. It's easier for bigger brands because they have money, they have funds to play, and they understand that it's beneficial for them to be ahead of the curve, dipping their toes into those things. But the evolution there needs to be a conversation about, we don't know where this is going yet. We can see areas where this is going, but we need to go together if you want to be at the vanguard of brand innovation and brand voice. If you do not want to be at the vanguard, wait 3-4 years until there are true experts in this area, and we'll be able to talk to you about, like, budgets, performance, return, all those things.
Talking of metaverse, I think one of the things we should do is hire our kids, because my son is so engrossed in things like Roblox and Minecraft and stuff. He knows way more than I do.
Absolutely, same thing here.
And actually, reverting back to your article, which I loved, by the way, in Drum, you mentioned about technology, particularly things like remote viewing that's happened over the last couple of years. Are you seeing a reversion back to where we were before? I think I'm seeing some clients and agencies traveling as they used to. Are you seeing that on your side?
I don't. There was somebody that had said, I'm nostalgic about the past, but I certainly don't want to go back to it. Yes, there are brands that are doing that, and for a range of reasons, right? It is true that there is, especially if you look at the pharma world, there was a true role for clients to be on set, because there's a lot of things that need to be approved, right? Like everything that deviates from an FDA approved script, you need to have lawyers, you need to have a number of people to be able to make decisions, and having people on site be able to make those decisions might help. There's another clients, especially smaller clients, where they used to see the marketing, the television shoot as a way to reward the team for work, and they're going as well. But then there is a majority of large clients where they're actually quite happy not having to travel anymore, and they're benefiting from, I don't know, we open our South Africa hub and we have a remote supervision system now, where before from the United States going to South Africa, sometimes it was a 4-day trip, right? Like 2 days there, 2 days back. And it required at least like a 3-day shoot to be able to justify the travel expense. And now they see that they can dial in and benefit from that, and they don't have to travel. And there's a lot of people that don't enjoy traveling and leaving their families, and they, like me, being in those places, like living those places for a long time. So I think there is like different reasons for different people. I can see that the conversation about the time they used to consume, having easier access to those production hubs that are remote, but they're creative and very competitive on cost, and the impact that it has in the environment of not having to travel 15 people across the world, they're very appealing, and I think that we'll see very quickly how it's getting there.
To address the challenges of a changing world, you talked in your article about think big picture. and needing to look at brands' overall marketing needs as the door to architect a smart ecosystem, a production ecosystem. What do you see as the key marketing needs driving change in production?
I think the main marketing need right now is we're talking to an audience that is becoming increasingly sophisticated because of technology. If you look at how like everybody behaves already, when we're consuming content through Netflix and we like our content to be tailored to what we want to see. Same thing with music on Spotify, same thing on purchases on Amazon. As we're shifting from linear television to more smart television or on-demand television, and we're looking at content on pre-roll with platforms like YouTube, people demand to have not just better brand targeting or message targeting, like better idea targeting, right? Like when I think that people are happy to give up their data as long as they get something in return, which is relevancy or something that they like, and that is leading to complexity when you have brands like FMCG brands. If you're talking about Coca-Cola, which appeals to, has a very broad audience and a lot of different demographics, the challenge is personalization. And personalization, there are wonderful things that we can do now with media tools, with DCO, with DCE, and the challenge with that is be able to feed those fantastic machines with enough content that is relevant. And that's why looking at things on a holistic way, on the asset production, which is the more time and money consuming, and be able to do creative that works in place in different levels. So now it's not just about changing the story, but knowing that your 45 plus demographic might be interested in lifestyle and your 20 something demographic in a car brand but can be interested about features. How do you produce those things without doubling your marketing budget? And that's when doing smart things, that's when now we're at a time which is very exciting with virtual sets, with text to speech, with CGI, to be able to look at the whole thing and say, how do we achieve this goal to deliver better return on investment to our clients?
Mm-hmm. That growth in personalized advertising is obviously, it's come to the fore right now, and data driving insights. But historically, data has not been something that's been embraced by creatives. Do you think that's changed?
Data adds complexity, and it's very challenging. You can very quickly go down the rabbit hole and find it overwhelming. And there is a tension between two sides, which is media is very excited about the level of personalization and measurement. Creative very much still wants to have that brand building. So it's that tension between like brand building and performance. And I think that in the middle, what we're doing and what we have to do is actually make a roadmap to go from one to the other. It's very difficult to go from producing one commercial to producing a million commercials, right? And before we talk about personalization, maybe we need to talk about audiences, maybe we need to talk about all the things. Creatives, I think that good creatives, they like to have some data because it gives them a framework. It's having a good insight helps them work around, have something to start building from. Having said that, I mean, that's the role of roles that we're seeing now, like data translators or data analysis. I remember like when we started getting data, people were very excited about the data sets, and every month we have a report of 150 pages of data, right, which was just numbers and charts. I think that now we're turning that data into few very interesting insights, which is it's a healthier, more smart way to actually have creatives built on that.
We often see that the biggest challenges to change are historic practices and ways of working on the client side, particularly the way scopes of work are defined or how budgets are set. What advice would you give a client on the changes they may need to make internally to adapt to a new production ecosystem?
If you feel that you don't have somebody you can partner with, fire that person and hire a new one. I know that it sounds brutal.
I can think of one.
But it's that kind of thing where I do believe that now production strategies is an important thing. And in advertising, we need to think in the way that other communication industries like publishing or entertainment look at production. And it requires longer conversations and it requires a more, I wouldn't say like trusting, but a more direct and be able to have people solve problems, giving a broader framework on how to solve it. And if they don't feel that they have that partner, what I see is in the long run that relationship deteriorates and nobody gets what they what they're looking for. So it's very important for people to find a partner or a team that they actually trust, and they can have those conversations.
Now, I've heard you talk before about capability and the changing skills required in the production community. For instance, we recently put some people inside one of our clients, and you know exactly who that is. What do you think of the different approaches clients might take? Is this different industry by industry, or is it client by client? What do you think of that?
Actually, I think that's the most exciting part of our business right now. It's the fact that when you were talking about, like, my first note about the silver bullet, be able to go in from executing television campaigns to actually be able to do production strategy and architect solutions for clients, and everybody doing its own different thing. I do think that it goes by industries and it goes by clients, especially clients that have a very strong culture. And this industry has, I don't understand really why, but it's really been enjoyed this polarization of terms, right? Like in-house or external. And I think that's having a healthier balance of all those things is clients do need to have some capabilities in-house. Clients do need to have some healthy partner ecosystem, and clients need to have the ability of work externally with people. What clients do need, which is something that they haven't had to have before, is be able to have a solid operations and technology stack around production, right? In the same way, it's almost they need to look at advertising production in the same way that they look at manufacturing their own products.
The range of skills that are required these days to make assets, I mean, where do you find the people who've got the capabilities? I mean, do you train them yourselves? Do you find people who have had traditional backgrounds and upskill them? How do you do it?
The framework is very common to all the platforms, right? Like, what we do with an idea is figure out who are the best people, procuring the cost, and it's constantly looking alignment, right? I find that production is the thing where it's a very creative business that has a framework in the back where, the more I grew in the business and started to talk to business people, I realized that big part of my job was risk management and project management and things like that doesn't change. That doesn't change depends on what we're doing. You can, in an integrated workflow, you can very clearly say how on the operators or the artist side, there is big difference between television, print and digital and metaverse. But the important thing, especially for production, is ensuring that we are managing and communicating risk, making sure that there is a creative level, and constantly seek alignment of all parties to keep it within strategy. That's what we do on a PPM meeting. That's what we do on a beta release. That's what we do on all those things. Where do we find people? I think that people are coming from industries. Nobody ever got a job, or nobody ever went to university thinking, I want to be an advertising producer, right, Pat? It's so true. I still need to meet the junior producer that says, yes, I went to university thinking I do want to be an advertising producer. We all fell into this. I do believe now there is really interesting people in the music business, just because how record labels are changing and now artists are creating creative teams around them. It's almost like every artist has his own mini creative agency, and they're very much native on an omni-channel kind of world. I do believe that there are really interesting people in gaming. There's very interesting people in publishing. There's all these other industries that are feeding us with people that bring different skills and different points of views on that.
Now, we're focusing on this podcast mainly around innovation. What's the stuff that's coming around the corner that's really exciting for you?
Have you heard about this thing called the metaverse?
The metaverse. My kids are teaching me that stuff. No, definitely. But it's, it is exciting. But also, the fact that brands are starting to engage with that. My son was showing me something the other day. There was a kind of a concert online, actually within Roblox. So I was like, oh, wow, that's fantastic. So, but that is exciting. There's a whole ton of exciting stuff. And we've been doing a production in the last few weeks using Unreal Engine, trying to bundle scripts up together, and you can really go from one location to another and control the whole lighting on the shoot. So, I think that's really exciting for me.
But I think that I'm very excited about the technology that we have at our fingertips right now. And I'm old enough to come from a generation where technology was a limitation, right? When we were working with things you had a limitation on the things that you could create. I think that the combination of course, the metaverse or virtual reality with Unreal Engine and virtual studios it opens the door for, when we talk about like clients, brands talking about engaging or experiences instead of campaigns, it gives the ability for brands to create their own experience and their own world. Car advertising, if you look at the storytelling or the production of car advertising, hasn't changed that much in the last 20 years, right? It falls very easily into 3-4 categories. And the car, you have directorial style of photography, the ability for all of a sudden those brands to create their own imaginary world or their own world where there is no limitations of real locations. And that can live not just on a television commercial, but people can interact with in a virtual world. I do think that that's opening a whole new world of exciting things that will be very relevant to the future, because it would be ownable for the brand, which I think is something that has always been very important. In a world that is data-driven, where everybody has the same data, how do you become different than the competition? And what makes you more appealing than anybody else? What makes you recognizable? Combination of that, be able to, for the first time, own your own world and limitless be able to use it in any platform, from, of course, like metaverse or AR and social and TV. I think that's actually very, very interesting.
Now, finally, with all of the other guests that we've had on this podcast, I've asked people what their favorite advertising campaign is of all time. Tell us what yours is.
I have very quirky taste for favorite campaigns. And there are some campaigns that, from a campaign point of view, I feel sometimes nostalgic about the golden era of television advertising from the 90s. I'm a big BBH fan. So I love that trail of commercials in the 90s from BBH, from that they started doing with people like Tarsem, right? Like gas station or swimming pool. It was a beautiful combination of storytelling, film craftsmanship, music selection. It was just a masterclass on television advertising. So of course there's been things that have been more exciting, but if at the core of who I am, that's my guilty pleasure.
Well, you and I are both TV guys, so we're always going to revert back to our favorite TV ads. So I'm going to pick one of those and put it onto our reel of favorites for the guests. Look, Sergio, it's been great talking to you today. We've only covered a small part of many interesting and involving topics around the world of production, about how technology is playing its part in the way that we produce stuff, the somewhat scandalous waste of assets. I heard you mention a figure of 80% in the piece that you wrote earlier in the year, about attracting new and diverse talent into the industry. It'd be great to get you back again on another day on some of these things. But I want to just say thanks so much for being with us on the MCA podcast, and I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Me too. Thank you very much, Pat.
I want to say a big thank you to Sergio Lopez-Ferrero for taking time to talk to me today. It's been a real insight on how implementing the right production strategy ahead of time and through the right platform strengthens your engagement with your specific audience. To find out more about the MCA podcast, please head to theprodcast.com, where you'll find details on all of my guests, links to their favorite ads, and full transcriptions of all the episodes. If you'd like to feature on the podcast or have any comments, questions, or feedback, please email us at prodcast@murphycobb.com. I'm Pat Murphy, CEO of MCA. Do come and connect with us on LinkedIn or Instagram, of which all links are in the notes for this episode. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again to my guest, Sergio Lopez-Ferrero, my team at MCA, and to the production team at What Goes On Media. Thanks for listening. Catch you again next time.